All right, let's jump right in. What if I told you the Quran isn't meant to be read like a history book from front to back? What if instead it's more like a machine? Something that operates on a totally different kind of physics, a different understanding of time itself. In this explainer, we're going to look at the Quran not as a sequence of events, but as a system where time is folded.
Now, take a look at this. To most people, this is just a random string of numbers, right? Chapter and verse. But this isn't a timeline. It's not random at all. You should think of it more like a circuit diagram. It's a code that describes how a system fundamentally works. Each number here is a state, a different angle for observing the very same process. And that right there is the first, and maybe the most important, rule we have to get straight. This is not history. If you try to read the Quran as a simple, linear story of events, you're going to miss the entire point. It's like trying to squash a three-dimensional object onto a one-dimensional line. It won't work. So, okay, if it's not history, then what is it? It's a closed causal engine. Think about that. A self-contained, self-correcting system that runs on its own logic, its own physics. It's not designed to tell a story that fades over time. It's built to run a process that preserves a core truth forever. You see, this engine, it operates with a clock that seems to run backwards. It's built on this principle of folded time, where a cause can actually show up after its effect. And this isn't just a clever trick. This time inversion is absolutely crucial for its main job, preserving the message and protecting it from being corrupted. So how does this engine actually work? What are its fundamental laws? Let's pop the hood and break down the physics of this whole inversion thing. We're going to walk through the 4 key stages that make this entire system tick. And here's our roadmap. It's like a 4-stroke cycle. First, collapse. Then, cooling. Then inversion. And finally, sealing. Each step builds perfectly on the last one, creating this self-sustaining loop that's designed for one thing and one thing only: preservation. Step 1, collapse. This quote from Maryam, it sounds like total despair, right? But in the physics of the Quran, this is the entry point. It's a required compression. Life, true life, can only emerge at the point of maximum constraint, when your ego, your speech, your whole sense of control has totally collapsed into silence. That's the only environment where uncorrupted meaning can get into the system. Then we get to step 2, cooling. Listen to the command given to the fire that was meant for Abraham. The fire isn't destroyed. No, it's reprogrammed. This is the system's first big inversion. The harm is taken away, but the heat, now as disciplined, pure knowledge, is left behind. Destruction gets converted into safety. Step 3 is inversion. And again, this isn't about just wiping something out. This is about final definition. What was once high and mighty is now buried. What was flowing and changing is now fixed, like stone. In this system, see, death isn't erasure, it's crystallization. The system just locks into its final, unchangeable form. And that brings us to the final step, number 4, sealing. The whole loop gets closed by installing a brand new timing mechanism. The old clock, the one based on human speech, always leads to decay. Information gets lost. But the new clock, it runs on silence and science. When you take the voice out of the equation, knowledge is preserved. Time doesn't flow forward anymore. It circulates inward, forever protecting that core message. Okay, so if the Quran is an engine, then who are its operators? Well, the prophets in the system aren't just figures from history. They're more like active simultaneous functions. They are archetypes, each one performing a very specific role to keep the engine running. So you have Yahya, who represents life, consciousness without any noise. Then Suleiman is death, the silent end of authority. Isa is knowledge that gets lifted up, never consumed or destroyed. The key is they aren't in a line, one after the other. They're all active components, all working at the same time to keep this whole system in perfect balance. So what happens when you interact with this engine? What are the consequences? Well, it all comes down to how you respond to its main element, fire. The very same fire leads to 2 completely different outcomes, 2 very distinct fates. And here are the 2 paths. You have the idle loop, where someone gets fixated on the form instead of the function. The command for the fire to cool gets rejected, and they get trapped in the state of endless burning. But then you have the return loop. Here, the word is put into action. The fire becomes a passage, a transformation. The trajectory is restored, and you exit the loop. That state of being trapped in the first loop, it has a technical name, regime. Now, people often translate it as accursed or expelled, but structurally, inside this engine, it means a sealed trajectory. It's a state of inescapable fire, and it happens because the command for that fire to become coolness and safety has been rejected.
So here's the crucial point, and it's so important. The medium doesn't change. The trial, the test, the fire, it's the same for everyone. But it's your interaction with it, how you align with the system's commands, that determines everything. Your state determines your fate. So let's bring this all home. We've talked about a clock that runs backwards, a 4-stage causal engine, prophets who are more like functions, and 2 possible fates. What is the ultimate goal of this entire cosmic setup? Why build a system that's so complex? And this brings us right to the heart of it. The purpose of this time-bending engine isn't to spread truth so fast that it risks getting corrupted. No, its sole purpose is to preserve it, perfectly and eternally. And in a world where basically every message decays, this act of perfect preservation, that is the highest, most profound form of mercy there is.
Thinking about it this way, it changes everything about how you might approach the text. It's not just a book you read anymore. It's a system you engage with, an engine you learn to operate. So the final question isn't really about what you believe, it's about interaction. Are you ready to hold the book,